the red flags, speak up, and protect your tax dollars by calling 1-866-FRAUD-OH.
The Cincinnati Bengals defense is just like Chick-fil-A. Not available on Sundays. The Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, we welcome you in live here on a Thursday. The Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. We're going to get to Paul Keels, the voice of the Buckeyes, coming up here in just a moment. One more game before the game. And then just like that, the regular season's over. I can't believe how fast this season has gone. We'll talk about that with Paul Keels coming up here in just a few moments. Just a reminder, coming up this weekend, it's the Holiday Help Out Food Drive. It's our 10th annual Holiday Help Out Food Drive. We've partnered up with the Good Neighbor House. We are going to be live all weekend long over at Firehouse 72 in Trotwood. With everything that's been going on with the government shutdown not too long ago, a lot of our local food pantries, of course, need a lot of help as far as restocking those local food pantries. The Steve Harvey Morning Show has sent over 50 Thanksgiving Day turkeys again, that we are going to be putting a lot of holiday meals and build around those turkeys to help 50 adopted families in the Miami Valley that need help this holiday season. So what we need is help this weekend. If you could stop on through the Firehouse 72 over in Trotwood, we're going to be setting up shop tomorrow morning all the way through Sunday afternoon, and we're looking forward to seeing as many of you out there as possible. Every donation, of course, helps those in need this holiday season, and will also go towards the Good Neighbor House and all local food pantries. So come on out. It's our 10th annual Holiday Help Out Food Drive. We're looking forward to seeing you guys out there. We'll be doing the show live out there tomorrow. Keith Byers and I will be on the air starting at 3 o'clock, and we'll be doing the show out there from Firehouse 72 in Trotwood. So again, excited to be with you. We got a jam-packed show for you. Joe Burrow, we thought about, well, maybe he could be back by Thanksgiving. He might be back by this Sunday. So we're going to talk about that coming up around the corner. The Dayton Flyers got a big win last night on the road at Marquette. We'll dive into that. Plus, Kyle Schwarber spoke about how much he loves it in Cincinnati, how much he loves living there, how much he loves spending time with his friends there. Well, maybe he should work there. Maybe a certain team should make that happen. So we'll get to all of that. But before we get to that, we'll welcome on our next guest. He joins us each and every Thursday to kick off the show, the voice of the Buckeyes, Mr. Paul Keels. Mr. Paul Keels, welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Justin?
Not too bad. Appreciate your time as always. Hey, what the heck? We have 2 more games left, and then the regular season's done. When did the season even start? I feel like it's been one of the quicker ones, if you will.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people have talked about around campus, just how fast the season has gone and how you're looking at Saturday's game at Rutgers and then the big one at Ann Arbor and, waiting to see what shakes out with the Big Ten championship game. But it certainly has flown by.
Obviously coming off a win against UCLA, very similar to a lot of wins. There's nothing big or major to take from it, other than Ohio State remains unscathed at this point. It's been a fairly low headline season for Ohio State, but now all of a sudden the injury bug's starting to creep up a bit. How concerned should we be about the unknown when it comes to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate at this point?
Well, I think there's some concern about that. And, we saw, Tate hasn't played in the last 2 games. Smith was limited a little bit. As best we can tell, trying to read between the lines, which is always dangerous. A lot of that has been precautionary, but also what it's done is it's given some opportunities to other guys like Mylan Graham and Bryson Rogers. We saw Quincy Porter get out there a little bit. He's had a little of what he's had to deal with as well. And it certainly opens the opportunity for tight end Max Clare and others. But really what it did last week, which I think it was going to do anyway, Justin, regardless, is that it had Ohio State once again majoring in the run game. And all 3 running backs, they were down 1 back. Donaldson didn't play. But all 3 of the backs that played got in the end zone. They all averaged over 7 a game, 7 yards per carry. So that's something that people have been anxious to see. Would this running game kind of get up to where it was doing what the passing game was doing? So, but, there's always concerns late in the year about bumps and bruises. And again, Ryan Day has been consistent about not wanting to give injury updates during the course of the week. He did mention Tuesday that he thought both Tate and Smith were working hard at trying to get themselves ready to play this weekend, but we won't know until, Saturday morning what the deal is.
Yeah, I was getting that Jackson Smith and Jigba, PTSD when it came to the updates on the receivers. I'm hoping we don't have that again, but
yeah, really.
But next up is Rutgers again. And, you talked about the possibility of a trap game. I don't see Ohio State losing this weekend, but, we as fans, we're not thinking about Rutgers. We're thinking about the game next week. And I'm pretty sure that's how media and everybody is. That's the job of the coaching staff this week, is to make sure that they're locked in for Rutgers, especially if they are going to be shorthanded with some of their elite players this weekend, making sure that they, keep the task at hand, which is taking care of the Scarlet Knights.
And I think that's something Ryan Day has done a very good job with over the years, is keeping the team focused on what's right in front of them. The fact that they're playing at home helps. The fact that it's the last home game for right now, an estimated 16 players that are going to go through the senior day ceremonies, 16 or maybe 17, not certain exactly what that number will be. And also the fact that it's Greg Schiano on the other sideline, a coach that Ohio State's very familiar with. He spent 3 years as a defensive coordinator here. Rutgers is coming off a bye weekend. You never know what they've got up their sleeve. He's always got some gadgets, and they're a program that's, I think in the 2 stints that Greg has been the head coach there, they've blocked over 60 kicks. So there's elements like that can kind of keep a team focused and paying attention to what's right in front of them.
Paul, you talked about the senior day festivities. Heath Byers, he did his show earlier today, and he was talking about how, he remembers back when he played, they didn't do the senior day festivities back when he played. They did stuff for the seniors off to the side, or for the final year players off to the side, or whatever. But are you surprised that teams still do these senior day festivities, especially with how weird it is sometimes with the transfer portal, and sometimes you get 1 year of a senior, you rarely at Ohio State get 4-year seniors. So where are you at with senior day festivities? Are they awkward in your opinion?
I don't think so. I think it's a good thing to do. More than anything, it's for the families to get a little bit of recognition. Jim Lachey talked about it on the coaches show earlier today. It was kind of an acknowledgement of his parents when he played, traveling over to watch the away games. These parents invest a lot of time and money and things to be able to do that. So I think it's handled very well. At least, in the 28 years that I've been doing this, I think it's all been done very well. And, now they will include some of the juniors that, may not be coming back. I don't know that there's any in that case right now. And there's some guys that are listed as seniors but have eligibility remaining, like Carson Hinsman. He's not going to take part in it. So it's just one of those things. I think now it's kind of awkward and strange, but maybe if you look at it and trying to figure out the best way to deal with it, it's about the families and the parents as much as it is about the players and the fans that are going to see some of these guys for the last time.
Voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels, with us here again, the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers, with you here on a Thursday. So we'll take a quick look around the Big Ten in a moment, but a lot's always being made about this particular week. It's always that second to last week of the regular season where, people instead of focusing on their team and the conference at hand, we got to poke fun at the SEC a bit. Where are you when you see Alabama taking on an Eastern Illinois, Georgia against a Charlotte, Mercer's going to be at Auburn? So much is made about these schedules, Coastal Carolina at South Carolina, Western Kentucky at LSU. Where are you at with the way the SEC does their schedule? A lot of Ohio State and everyone else, they play their Coastal Carolinas or their Western Kentuckys early in the season. The SEC places theirs at the back end.
Yeah, the question I would have is for these teams that they're playing, how does it affect their conference schedules? And if other schools are willing to schedule them then that weekend, then why not? But it's foreign to what we understand in the Big Ten. Now, when the SEC goes to 9 conference games, I'm curious to see what will happen with all of that. But it's just foreign to us in this conference and to many others. Because usually it is, if you've got a rivalry game in that last week, you're trying to avoid a trap game. I remember years ago, I think it might have been 2017 or 2018, when Ohio State played at Maryland the week before the Michigan game, and they had to go to double overtime to beat a Maryland team that was being run by an interim head coach. So it's a different universe to think about playing a non-conference game that late in the year. It is maybe when there were more independents, it was a little more common. I can remember when I was doing University of Cincinnati, when they were independent, they went down to Birmingham and they played Alabama during this week. So it's just something very foreign to what we're familiar with around here.
A quick scope around the Big Ten, Nebraska, Penn State, a matchup we thought coming into the season would have a lot more weight at this portion of the season. But again, an interesting one nonetheless. Rule, Nebraska, Penn State, at home. Your thoughts on that matchup?
Be curious to see if Penn State can continue momentum from getting their win against Michigan State. And we know the Spartans are in a down cycle as well. Nebraska is still trying to prove to people that they've taken a step forward. The one I'm more curious about is the Oregon USC game. I think that's one that kind of probably is an elimination game as far as any consideration for the playoffs, maybe more so for USC than it is for Oregon. But maybe with the game you mentioned, Justin, maybe it is kind of a indicator of where Nebraska really is and how much better they are. And of course, dealing without Raiola at quarterback, that makes them a little bit of a different animal also.
So you have Ohio State, you have Indiana, as locks out of the Big Ten for the playoff as we sit here right now. I mean, are there any other teams you feel very confident out of the Big Ten that are for sure going to be in? You talked about the potential elimination game. I mean, where are you at with the Big Ten as a whole when it comes to the playoff at this point?
Well, I think if Oregon wins out, they're in. But then, the question gets to be, is there a fourth team that possibly could put themselves in there? Michigan still just one conference loss, 2 losses overall. Could they be in the running? It's hard to think they would be, but, if things don't go right, Michigan can find themselves playing in the Big Ten championship game. I'm not so much convinced that USC, now, if they beat Oregon, USC is going to get some more consideration. But right now I'm thinking it's just a 3-bid conference with Oregon probably the third team. I just don't know that there's anybody as a fourth can really get in there. And, if you have some chaos happen, that might hurt the cause of the case of a third team.
Ohio State's welcoming in Rutgers, as we talked about, but Michigan, their second to last game, of course, their last game before they welcome in Ohio State next weekend. They're on the road. They're at Maryland. Obviously, Michigan trying to stay in the hunt, as you talked about. You take care of Maryland and you do what they've done the last couple of years and maybe beat Ohio State in a week, that could propel them into that conversation, as you talked about as well. But Michigan, Maryland, their final showdown before Ohio State next week.
Well, Maryland's swooning, and Michigan may have some injury concerns with Jordan Marshall getting hurt last week. Michigan was fortunate to win last week and to beat Northwestern with 5 turnovers. So their warts are starting to show a little bit. You would expect they would probably take care of Maryland pretty easily, and then it'll be interesting to see how that sets up for that last game. But, and I'm more curious to find out because they're without their other running back, Haynes, who got hurt earlier in the season, has had foot surgery, but not sure what the injury status is of Jordan Marshall, but that could be very, very crucial. Maybe not so much this weekend, but the following weekend.
All right, voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels. Paul, final thoughts. Again, Ohio State, Rutgers, second to last game before the game next week. Final home game for the Buckeyes.
Final home game, and Rutgers, one of the worst rush defenses in the country, so I think you're going to see Ohio State trying to major in the run again.
Oh, that'll be nice. Ohio State basketball got the big win, a close one over Notre Dame this past weekend. Ohio State hoops continuing on as well.
Tonight, I'm at the arena right now getting ready for it.
There you go. So, all right, we're looking forward to hearing your voice later tonight. Paul, you the man. Thanks, sir, as always. We'll talk next week.
You got it, Justin. Take care.
All right, Paul Keels, voice of the Buckeyes, all football, all basketball, all right here on Dayton's radio home of Ohio State football and basketball, 1410 ESPN Radio. All right, we'll step away for a few moments. We'll get back into some college football in a moment. I want to talk some NFL. Joe Burrow, we thought would maybe be coming back around Thanksgiving, but he might be back by this Sunday. So we'll get into that. College football, Reds baseball. We got plenty more coming your way. More of the Justin Kinner Show when we come back.
1410 ESPN Radio, because talking about sports is cheaper than therapy.
All right, and we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. All right, so as we sit here right now, I thought this was interesting. Earlier today, Bengals head coach Zach Taylor did not rule out the possibility of Joe Burrow playing on Sunday against the Patriots. Zach Taylor was interviewed earlier today. Shout out to Tom Brenneman. Tom Brenneman on 700 WLW, does mornings over there. And Zach Taylor hops on with Tom once a week. And Tom had asked him about the possibility of Joe Burrow playing this weekend. And his response was, I wish I had a decision today. I'm going to take in all the information. Well, since that point of this morning, quarterback Joe Burrow, he was spotted at the start of practice today working with the starting center, while Joe Flacco was taking snaps with the backup. This was according to Charlie Goldsmith, who also covers the Cincinnati Bengals. So there's that aspect of it right there. And I guess the question I have is, because this is going to tie into the Reds coming up in a bit, there was some information that came out last night about Ellie De La Cruz that I thought made the Reds look bad. And I think that this is, the Cincinnati Bengals are no stranger to doing things that make them look bad. I just, again, and I talked about this with Keith Byers earlier today. I'd asked him, when you are in the NFL and you are cleared to play, does that mean that you are 100%? The answer is no. Just means that you are healthy enough to resume physical activities, because, so keep in mind, it's not as if Joe, and maybe I need to be careful here. It's not as if I know that Joe Burrow for sure is not 100%, but I have a hard time believing that he's 100% when he was not supposed to come back till mid-December. There was those doubting if he would even be ready to go by Thanksgiving. Some people said the Bills game after, and now I'm supposed to believe that he is healthy enough to return this coming up weekend. This is the problem when you have to question whether the Bengals have Joe Burrow's best interest at heart, because Zach Taylor is not thinking big picture. I don't think that Duke Tobin is thinking big picture. I think that Duke Tobin is thinking Joe Burrow needs to come back and we need to turn this around, because maybe he could be without a job. Zach Taylor could be without a job. There are guys whose careers are on the line right now, so they're not thinking about, oh man, we need to be careful so we could have him for next year. There's some guys that want to be around next year, so why care about his health next year? I would have a hard time trusting the organization handling this particular situation. And also, well, Joe Burrow's a competitor is what I keep hearing. I don't give a damn if he's a competitor. Joe Burrow has continued to show over and over again that what he wants is not always what's best for the team. Hence why the Bengals are in this situation to begin with. He valued pass catchers more. Well, that's why you have the number one offense in the NFL, even in your absence. And that's why you have the worst defense in the last 50 years. The Bengals giving up 33 points per game at this point of the season. It is the worst scoring defense in 50 years in the National Football League. So excuse me by saying that if I say I don't give a damn that Joe Burrow says he's just a competitor and ready to go. I don't care. You got to protect him from himself. We're going to talk about the Reds and how I believe they mishandled Ellie De La Cruz coming up here in just a little bit. But nonetheless. So Joe Burrow could potentially be coming back this Sunday. And I guess the question is why? Why is Joe Burrow rushing so quickly to come back? He is not going to save the day unless he could play defense, unless he is a safety, unless he is a linebacker, unless he could be a dominant pass rusher. Joe Burrow rushing back ahead of time, risking further injury, risking re-hurting that same foot, if you're not 100%, I just don't understand. For one, I could understand, I guess, why Joe Burrow would want to come back, but someone has to grow a set in that organization and look at him and say, no, we don't work for you. You work for us, and we got to protect you from you. I know that's kind of hard because anything that he says that he wants, he gets. He's been that's a desperate organization that when he wants something, they bow down to him. And I think as an organization, they got to tell him no. I have no clue the obsession with rushing him back. I could see if the Bengals were losing games because they were not, efficient offensively. I could see if their defense was solid, but their offense was losing them games. And it's like, man, I can't watch another week of that offense. We need Joe Burrow back. The offense has been the best offense in the NFL since Joe Flacco arrived. I get it. They didn't look that sharp this past Sunday against Pittsburgh. But man, oh man, Pittsburgh, I also look at the Patriots, and they have a bottom 10 ranked pass defense. I think Joe Flacco with T. Higgins, I think that those two will be just fine against a team that is as good as New England is. It is a team that ranks in the bottom 10 in pass defenses in the NFL. To me, I just see no point in rushing Joe Burrow back this weekend. I see no point in rushing him back against the Baltimore Ravens. But at least the Ravens are a divisional opponent, and I would understand that. But man, oh man, I don't see it. I don't see the purpose of it. I see that they can risk doing more harm than good. Joe Burrow comes back this weekend and throws for what? 275, 300, and 3 touchdowns. Guess what? They're still losing. And the only thing that you risk is him getting further injured because he's not 100%. I think it is ridiculous to rush him back. There is no purpose of him coming back. I don't think he solves one single solitary problem by coming back. I tell you what, I also think it's disrespectful to Joe Flacco. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This offense isn't broke. Now they're going to be without Jamar Chase this coming up weekend because, he had to be a child and spit on somebody this past weekend, so they're going to be without him. I don't get it. Now, Chad Kinster, he weighs in on this. He says, pampered baby gets what he wants, and as injury-prone as he is, he's only going to hurt himself in his career at this point. Someone needs to just have the guts to say no to Joe. Chad, I'm surprised. I thought you were going to be against me on this one, and I'm not trying to get into an argument. I keep trying to say, oh, good, Joe Burrow's coming back this week. Now the Bengals have a shot to win. I just don't think that's the case. I don't know what problem Joe Burrow solves. And now this sounds like a ridiculous comment. If Joe Burrow's back, of course you play him. He's your franchise quarterback. Yes. If this was any normal situation, yes. This isn't a normal situation. This defense is historically bad, the worst defense in the last 50 years. The offensive line isn't good. They can't run the football. Jamar Chase is suspended because he spit on somebody last week. And you're not 100%. I've asked NFL players this question. Being cleared to play is not the same as being 100%. And until I hear that Joe Burrow is 100%, I think this is the wrong decision. One more time, the Patriots have a bottom 10 ranked pass defense in the National Football League. They don't need to force Burrow out there this Sunday. I get it. Thursday night on the road in Baltimore. Thanksgiving, prime time, another full week. As far as I'm concerned, I completely get it. Still not a big fan of it, but if you win this Sunday, yes, I'm a big fan of it. But as far as I'm concerned, at this point, you're only risking not just this season, but next season. This season potentially is shot. And I shouldn't say potentially. I think it is shot. Next season, now this is not, and it's not about next season yet, but it's about next season when it comes to preventative measures to make sure that you don't do something stupid to impact next year. Joe Burrow is a fragile quarterback, which means if he is out there, you only need him out there if what you get from him is worth the risk of him getting hurt and being without him. If he goes out there and gets injured, and there's an injury that goes into the offseason and lingers into the start of camp, I just don't see how that is a situation that is worth the risk of battling to barely make the playoffs and get eliminated in week 1. It just doesn't make sense. Chad says, absolutely not. I agree with you on most things, and I think he's rushing back. There's no point. This season is over with that defense. I don't know. I am curious. By the way, I do want to hear from those of you who do believe that he should come back this Sunday. What I want to hear, though, in your response is why. And it could be as simple as he's the franchise quarterback, and I'm a fan, and I would rather watch him than Joe Flacco. I can't argue with that. I just think it's short-sighted in regards to big picture. Big picture, like especially because Joe Flacco being on this roster is why you don't need to rush Joe Burrow back. If we were still seeing those same repetitive performances that we were seeing in week 3 and 4 against the Vikings, you know what I mean, and against Denver, I would say, you know what? Fine. You have nothing to lose at this point. But Joe Flacco has been phenomenal. I know he wasn't elite against the Steelers this past week, but you're not going to be great every single week. And again, the defense, giving up 33 points per game. It is the worst scoring defense in the last 50 years in the National Football League. It's brutal. Joe Burrow coming back does not fix that. He doesn't. And it's actually, he's going to be even without his safety blanket and Jamar Chase. We'll see what happens. 937-518-1410. Do you feel the Bengals are rushing Joe Burrow back if he truly does play this Sunday? Do you even think he's going to play this Sunday? 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and weigh in on the conversation. We'll debate next.
Most insurance accepted.
Go.
937-518-1410, the number to call and jump in on the conversation. I'm Justin Kinner. All right. Joe Burrow might be coming back this Sunday. It seems like all signs are pointing in that direction. And I just think it's kind of ridiculous, to be honest. I don't see the points in him being rushed back this Sunday. People have been calling me out saying, Justin, you're going to admit you were wrong. You guaranteed all season that he would not play again this season. I mean, I guess I'm very wrong. I have no problem admitting that, but the reason I was so set on saying that he wasn't going to come back is because they said the time frame would be mid-December. This defense has been so bad. They're not winning football games. I didn't see the point. And that's because I was trying to use logic of what a normal football team would do to protect him against himself. But I forgot that that's not how the Bengals operate. They let the football player run the organization. So Joe Burrow, of course, is most likely going to be out there this week. I mean, medical doctors said middle of December. Now you're going to say, well, medical doctors cleared him. There's a difference between being cleared to resume football activity and 100%. He's not 100%. Not 100%. And then as I'm watching this, as I'm following the coverage of this, Kirk Herbstreit, love Kirk, but I just thought this comment was ridiculous. Kirk Herbstreit went on the Pat McAfee show earlier today and said, Joe Burrow just wants to play football. He wants to be out there. He's going to play on Sunday. As opposed to all the other quarterbacks who don't want to play football and don't want to be out there. Sometimes we say the most ridiculous things about Joe Burrow that I'm like, don't make any sense. Joe Burrow's just a competitor, as to everybody else who enjoys losing. Joe Burrow just wants to win, as opposed to all the other quarterbacks who love losing. Joe Burrow's just a winner. He wins everywhere he goes, as opposed to every other quarterback who's just losing. Like, I don't understand the dumb things we say about Joe Burrow as if like we're putting him in a class of his own. Every quarterback wants to play football. Every quarterback wants to be out there. I don't understand why those are some rare traits that Joe Burrow has that nobody else has. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense at the end of the day. So, nonetheless, but we'll see what ultimately happens. I don't think he should play Sunday. I don't see the point. Difference between being cleared to play and 100%. He's not 100%. You clearly need this guy to win. You're not going to have Joe Flacco next year. Joe Flacco is a guy that he's actually been your seatbelt. He's been a safety valve. He's been your get out of jail free card. Your offense has continued to click even in Joe Burrow's absence. And the other things I'm seeing a lot of too, I'm seeing T. Higgins, as far as how this is being reported and covered. So like T. Higgins was asked about, Jay Morrison had asked T. Higgins about the chances of Joe Burrow playing. I wouldn't be surprised. He looks outstanding. Guys, we get told this every camp. Every camp. How many times do we hear from the media, Joe Burrow looks phenomenal? How many times do his teammates go to the media and say, man, Joe Burrow, this is probably the best he's ever looked? How many times has Joe Burrow told us in camp before, man, this is the best I've ever felt? And then game 1 and game 2 and game 3 get here, and it's the worst he's ever looked. Like, excuse me if I don't really trust what the media and what the players and what the fans say. Because every time, they've never once said Joe Burrow doesn't look good. But every time they say that, when a season starts or he's coming off of an injury, he doesn't look good. I don't know. Let me see, too. I'm going to go see if the line has shifted at all in the speculation of Joe Burrow potentially coming back to play. New England is a 6-point favorite at Cincinnati coming up on Sunday. Who knows? Who knows? Joe Burrow most likely is going to play. Chad says any true Bengal fan wouldn't want to see Burrow back this year. We want 100% healthy Burrow, not a hobbled quarterback. And again, and to be fair, Chad, if the reporting was different, if he was 100%, if there was no chance of further injuring this foot, it's a different conversation. But, and like I said, if you factor in all of that along with, oh man, the offense has just been horrible in his absence, and the only way to potentially make the playoffs is him to come back, then you entertain it. But Joe Burrow coming back, and again, nobody has been able to answer this for me. Joe Burrow coming back solves what? Joe Burrow coming back to the Cincinnati Bengals this Sunday solves what? I'll fill that blank in for you. And it's not a one-word answer. It's not a damn thing. Joe Burrow coming back does not solve a damn thing. Period. Joe Flacco's averaged 300 yards a game. Joe Flacco has averaged multiple touchdowns a game. Joe Flacco has been, outside of this past Sunday, played at an MVP-like level since arriving in Cincinnati for the last month. What exactly is Joe Burrow going to do that Flacco wasn't doing? Averaging 300 yards, multiple touchdowns. Joe Burrow can do that. That clearly hasn't been enough. Chad says if he truly was 100% ready to go, then yeah, he's making $55 million a year, should play. And if not, sit down, because the Bengals, who, again, are financially strapped because of these contracts, can't afford for him not to be out there. You got lucky getting the Joe Burrow or the Joe Flacco deal. Got lucky that the Browns were kind of silly enough to just help them out the way that they did. Either way. Other games in the NFL this coming up week. Week what? What week is this in the NFL? I mean, I get confused every single day. It seems like I ask this question. Week 12 of the NFL season. Steelers and Bears. The Steelers are not the only team. The Bengals are the only team with question marks about their quarterback in the AFC North. Obviously, it seems like every one of them is. The Ravens might be without Lamar Jackson. Browns are throwing out another quarterback. And the Steelers might be without Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers might play this Sunday at 1 o'clock at Chicago against the Bears. That's coming up on Sunday. The Bengals welcoming the Patriots. By the way, that Chicago and Steelers game, the Bears are a 2.5-point favorite. The Lions with the Giants in town. Detroit, a 10-point favorite. Vikings, Packers, a big NFC, North showdown right there. That is Green Bay, 6 points. They are favored at home in Lambeau. The Titans are 1-9 on the season. They have the 7-3 Seahawks. Seattle, not surprisingly, a 13-point favorite. Colts and Chiefs. I mean, how about the Chiefs at 5-5? I mean, the Chiefs are really, I mean, we could be looking at a potential playoff this year that does not feature Joe Burrow, that does not feature Lamar Jackson, and does not feature Patrick Mahomes. I would not anticipate there being many playoffs moving forward where all three of those or any of those quarterbacks miss the playoffs. Now, Joe Burrow, it's almost becoming just a normal thing, but it is weird not seeing Lamar or Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. So a lot has to go right. The Chiefs have a great opportunity with the Colts coming to Kansas City. Kansas City with the 8-2 Colts in town at 3.5-point favorite. Ravens and Jets. Lamar Jackson might be back to battling another injury, by the way. 5-5 Ravens, 2-8 Jets. Baltimore is a 13.5-point favorite. I would jump. I mean, that line, I would hammer the Jets right now until we know exactly what's wrong with Lamar Jackson. Browns, the debut of Shedeur Sanders on the road in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium at the Raiders. The Raiders are a 4-point favorite. We'll ultimately see what happens there. Shedeur, can he go in and show that he could be the guy? He may not get you look at what's going on right now. We've seen bad game after bad game after bad game for Dillon Gabriel. One bad game from Shedeur Sanders this Sunday, and his starting job is gone because he's not technically the starter. Dillon Gabriel is. He's going to have to go out there and wow the coaching staff, wow the fans, and ultimately lead the Browns to a win to really convince people that he should be the guy at least for another week. Jaguars at the Cardinals. Jacksonville, a 3-point favorite on the road. The Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles in the NFC East showdown. Philadelphia, a 3.5-point favorite. The Cowboys, 4 wins, 5 losses, and a tie. Welcome in the 8-2 Eagles. Saints, Falcons, New Orleans, a 2.5-point favorite at home. My gosh, that is one boring matchup right there. Rams and Buccaneers. The Rams are a 7-point favorite. They're 8-2. Bucks 6-4 with Baker Mayfield. Matthew Stafford, we keep feeling like, a geriatric quarterback closer to the end, should retire. Might be the MVP favorite at this point. He's thrown for over 2,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, and the Rams are 8-2. And are rolling. A win this weekend over Baker Mayfield could propel Matthew Stafford to be the favorite when it's all said and done. Monday Night Football, Panthers and Niners. San Francisco, a 7-point favorite with the 6-5 Panthers. The Panthers have been a winning team pretty much all season. Every time I look up, they're above 500, but they just don't scare anybody. Thursday night football coming up later on tonight. CJ Stroud and the Texans, who are 5-5, will welcome in Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 7-3. Josh Allen coming off of his first MVP season, not having as great of a year. He has thrown for 18 touchdowns and 2,400 yards, but he's also turned it over 7 times with 7 interceptions. We'll see if they can turn it around. No surprise, though, that they've been getting the season that they have from James Cook. James Cook, again, 182 carries, the third most carries in the NFL. He has the second most yards with 968 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's top 10 in every major statistical category. James Cook has been unbelievable for the Buffalo Bills. But Bills and Texans coming up. Week 12 action officially kicks off later on tonight. We'll be keeping an eye there. As far as the NFL playoff picture is concerned, you look at the playoff seeding right now. If the playoffs started today, how about this? The Denver Broncos, 9-2, would be the 1 seed. All right, they're sitting atop the West in the AFC right now. Pretty wild. The Patriots at 9-2 are sitting at number 2. The Colts at number 3, and then the Steelers, the AFC North division leaders, are sitting at 6-4 and 4th. They don't even know who their quarterback is moving forward with the uncertainty around the wrist of Aaron Rodgers. So Buffalo Bills come in at 5. The Chargers come in at 6, and the Jacksonville Jaguars come in at 7. And there you go. Those wild card teams right there. The Bills, the Chargers, and the Jaguars. Teams just on the outside looking in. CJ Stroud and the Texans, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And I guess if you want to include Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, they're 3-7. 2 games separate them, or I should say 3 games separate them and the Jaguars, who are sitting in that final spot. It's crowded. But we'll be keeping an eye on that playoff picture. No doubt about it. All right. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. 937-518-1410, the number to call and jump in on the conversation. We got some Reds talk coming up around the corner. College basketball. Dayton gets a big win last night in overtime against Marquette. Wright State in action tonight. Ohio State also in action coming up later on this evening. We'll get to all of that. I came across draft grades were given out for the 2025 draft, and they went out and they regraded the draft, not based on potential, but on results to this point. The Bengals have a player that fell dead last in this redraft. We'll talk about that when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. We'll be right back.
What does fame taste like? Is it the crunch of fried to perfection chicken strips?
And for your unique needs, Mattress Firm, they make sleep easy.
Technical errors on the radio never fails, but we are back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. I hope everyone is doing well. Yeah, we're off and rolling. So again, my apologies about that, but we're back up and rolling. So let's get going. Okay, so I do want to tell you about my friends over at Dayton Weight Loss Secret. All right, so Dr. Justin is with Dayton Weight Loss Secret, and they are having a huge Black Friday sale right now through December 5th. With the best deal of the year, you're going to get $400 off and 2 free red light therapy sessions to help boost your results even more. And if you join with a friend or a loved one, you both get an additional $100 off. So that's up to $500 off plus 2 free red light therapy sessions. We know the secret to losing up to 1 pound of fat every day with no exercising, no prepackaged meals, no counting points or calories, no drugs, injections, no surgery, or any risk with the, serious side effects. So no more yo-yo dieting. Let's reset that metabolism. All you have to do is, of course, get that free consultation taken care of at DaytonWeightLossSecret.com. So many patients lose about 20 to 30 pounds in the first month or two. I'm one of those many patients. I lost 30 pounds in the first 2 months. I mean, it just came falling off, right? And it was very cool to watch and be a part of along the way. And I'm still partnered with them and still on the program and still trying to shed weight. So again, if you want to get more information, call for your free testimony or for your free consultation. Or you could, of course, get that at DaytonWeightLossSecret.com. Give them a call, 999-1480, 999-1480, to get more information for Dayton Weight Loss Secret. Okay. Let's see. Continuing on here. Let's go to college basketball. Let's talk about some college basketball. How about last night? The Dayton Flyers, all right, they're on the road. They're at Marquette. Everyone said, I bet you're not going to have any compliments for Dayton after going out to Marquette and getting a win last night. I'm like, it's not true. I think you guys are confused by my takes on some of this stuff. You just chalk it up to Kinner hates Dayton, so of course he's going to poo-poo on Dayton. I don't hate Dayton. I think that they are very good with their PR of masking a lot of their deficiencies. They're actually very good at it. They get away with being average because they have a lot of fans at games. It's as simple as that. And I'm not hating. It's just the reality of it. So my point is to me, when they beat the Marquettes of the world, when they, play well against Kansas and when they beat Michigan State and when they do stuff like that, it does not surprise me. When they beat Arizona, or when they compete at a high level with Arizona, when they win a game or two in the NCAA tournament, that stuff doesn't surprise me because for whatever reason, it's been, under Anthony Grant, that has not been the issue. When they play in those games, Anthony Grant has never had an issue getting his team to rise up to play in North Carolina. He's never had an issue getting them to rally to beat a UConn. They've just never had that issue. Anthony Grant's very good at getting teams prepared to play the big boys. What he is horrible at is getting them to match the lesser talented teams with that same intensity, which is why they rarely win they don't win the A-10. They don't dominate the A-10. And when they do lose in the A-10, it's not like they're losing to the bigger teams. They're losing to the bottom teams. They're losing to the teams in the A-10 that you shouldn't be losing games to. And that's always my big frustration with it. Is I'm tired of hearing about how many fans go to games. I'm tired about hearing about the Big East. I'm tired of hearing about all of that because it all means nothing if you can't dominate a bad conference in the A-10. It all means nothing if you're not consistently getting to the NCAA tournament, and they're not. One time in the Anthony Grant era have they got there. One win in the Anthony Grant era. Now, the 2020 season, they were obviously, they were a top team in the country. Of course they were going, but that tournament never happened. So one time in 8 years is what it's happened. So I'm not watering down last night. Like last night is what makes my take is what makes me so frustrated is because I'm watching them, a couple days before struggle with Bethune-Cookman at home. I'm watching them struggle at home with UMBC. I know they took care of Canisius pretty easily or whatever the heck that team's name is. But the bottom line is I'm tired of, and then the PR machine comes into play And, the propaganda, and Anthony Grant said it in a post-game clip that they put on a social media clip that I shared with you guys when he said, people love playing Dayton. He said, I've done this a long time. People love playing Dayton. People do things here that they normally don't do because people love playing Dayton. And I said, that is such an arrogant, conceited BS excuse for why your team struggles with teams that they should blow off the floor. If you can go to Marquette and win in overtime in that environment and play at the level of which you do, you should never be in a game where it's coming down to the final media timeout wondering if you're going to be able to hold off Bethune-Cookman. And that's not a hot take. That's not me hating. That's not, Kenner's just finding a way. No. If you're mad, it's because I'm making valid points. And if you're mad, it's because deep down I'm right. Last night's game doesn't prove me wrong. It only proves me more right. Like I've always said, it's easy to get up for the UConns and the North Carolinas when you're in Maui. It's easy to get up and play a big close game with Kansas. But I think that coaching staff has been gigantic failures when it comes to having this team prepared to dominate the teams that they should. I don't care how many fans go to games. I don't care about all the Big East talk because you can't even dominate the A-10. I like this roster. I don't think that they have the killers that they've had in the past. They don't have that, obviously, the Obi Toppin. They don't have a Jalen Crutcher. They obviously don't have a Deron Holmes or a Tumani Kamara. I love Bennett. I think Bennett, I love watching that kid play. He dropped 25 against Bethune-Cookman. He had 19 points. At one point, it was a hush amongst Dayton fans because it looked like Bennett got really seriously hurt, but it was just a cramp, and he made his way back out there. He dropped 19 points last night. I like Bennett. I like this roster. I actually think this is one of the most complete rosters that Coach Grant has had in his time here outside of that 2020 season. But they've had more talented rosters than this. I'll take those rosters that obviously had Deron Holmes and Tumani Kamara and Kobe Brea and Malachi Smith and guys like that. That roster was way better, and they couldn't do anything with it. This is a less talented roster, but it might be a better team. But it doesn't matter because every time that we think that they have something special, they find ways to lose games that they shouldn't later in the season. They're going to win their 20 games. They are going to play Georgetown here in a few weeks. And I don't even know if Georgetown's any good, but it's a brand, so they're going to play well. They're going to play well against Virginia. They're going to look the part against Florida State. But watch. They will struggle with North Florida. They will struggle with NC Central. They're going to struggle with the teams that they should blow out of this gym. So it's hard for me, and this is what always happens. You guys go silent after a Bethune-Cookman. But you have everything to say when they beat a Marquette. And you think I have nothing to say when they beat a Marquette. And all I'm here to tell you is, I know they beat Marquette. I know that they are capable of it. Anthony Grant recruits good players. They have talented rosters every single year. But I think he does a poor job of having this team mentally prepared to play basketball games against teams that they should dominate. They're a mentally weak program year in and year out. Not a hot take. Go look at the teams they've lost to over the years. If you would have told me that they lose to North Carolina, that they lose to the UConns, I know they lost to North Carolina, but my point is, look how well they played against North Carolina. But my point, and this was last year's team, I get that. But all I'm saying is I'm not surprised when they play those teams to their level. I am also not surprised when they play Bethune-Cookman to their level. Gave up 82 points against Bethune-Cookman at UD Arena. You won by 6 points against UMBC and held on for dear life against UMBC at UD Arena. You go to Marquette, large crowd, overtime, win. It's impressive, but it's predictable. Just like it's predictable that they're going to struggle with North Florida. They're going to struggle when they play NC Central coming up in 2 days. It's just how it goes. I'm not hating. It's just the reality of it. So it is what it is. Rob on YouTube says UD is boring to watch. They were roughhoused. They were roughhoused by the Bearcats. They are boring to watch at times. because you would think that having a head coach that stemmed from the NBA would bring some NBA philosophies over and that they would actually play fast. Like this team, they don't play fast, and they never have. It's not just this roster. They just refuse to play. I mean, there's a reason that Chumani Kamara just looked like he was just stuck in mud when he played here. And then he gets to NBA Summer League and the G League, the Summer League, and then gets to Portland and he's running up and down and he's a freak athlete and he's doing things we didn't see him do here. It's because, my goodness, when you let an athlete be an athlete, it's amazing what happens. Let these guys be athletic. Let them get out and run. Let them go play freaking basketball. This half court, use every second of the shot clock yawn fest is just, it gets old. Either way. But that was a big win last night. I'm not taking anything away. I know it was a good win. But what I want to see is, while you guys look forward to the UC matchups, while you guys look forward to the Virginia and the Florida State matchup and the UC matchup, I want to see them embarrass NC Central in 2 days. I want to see them, when they have North Florida. They have the East Tennessee State Buccaneers coming up here in a few weeks on December 2nd. All right, I want to see them dominate the Eastern. I want to see them beat East Tennessee State Buccaneers. That's what I want to see. You guys want to see them beat up on, Marquette? Yeah, that's fine. That's what they do. They beat Marquette. They compete with the UCs in recent years. That's what they do. What they also do is they let UMBC look better than they are in NC Central and teams like that. Good coaches don't allow you to play down to the level of your opponent every single time. And that's what this team does. So as impressed as I am with that, it's a huge win on the road, Big East opponent at Marquette. Marquette is a hell of a coach. Great win. I'm not taking anything away. But that means nothing if you can't run NC Central off the floor. It doesn't mean anything if Eastern Tennessee State University, loses by 6 or 8, and it's a ball game heading into the final media timeout. All that stuff I don't care about because it proves you're mentally weak, and I have no faith in you winning the A10. I want to see them run these bad teams off the floor, like what they did against Kinesis or whatever that team is, 88-48 to open up the season. We'll see what happens. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Coming up tonight, we do have Wright State basketball. Wright State returning home after the Greenbrier tip-off where they did split. They beat Radford. They blew out Radford. Radford's a very good team, and they blew Radford out. And then Kent State, who's also a really good team, they lost in overtime this past Sunday. So, Wright State has Ohio Wesleyan tonight at home at the Nutter Center, 7 o'clock, the tip-off. As far as the Wright State Raiders' upcoming schedule, they'll be at Stetson and at Butler next week. The day after Thanksgiving, they'll be at Butler. Youngstown State and Green Bay coming up. They're going to be at Marshall. Miami of Ohio at home on the 16th. Eastern Michigan, a lot of MAC schools, and then it's all Horizon League play from there. But Wright State, look, this past weekend at Greenbrier, Radford, that game when they won 92-59, that's the team that I know that they are, but I also know that the way that they lost to Kent State, their inability to make free throws, they weren't very disciplined down the stretch. That's frustrating. There's just a lot of things that allowed them to lose that game late. But, man, I tell you what, they have a freshman. Okay, they have a freshman that I really want people to go out to the Nutter Center to watch. They have a freshman that is so good that, and I'm not putting this out there. I don't want Wright State mad at me. But every time I see this kid make a play, I'm like, he ain't going to be here next year. I don't like thinking that way. I probably wouldn't say that in front of the coaches. Deep down, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't think that themselves. I hope not, because I think that was a hell of a recruiting win for them. But Michael Cooper is a freshman. He, in 22 minutes, he had 17 points against Radford when they won 92-59. I mean, Michael Cooper's the real deal, and he's the point guard. And he just does things that just, from Jeffersonville, Indiana, he played along with 2 other D1 recruits. One of them went to Northwestern. Wright State got both of them, by the way. The other 2, and Michael Cooper's one of them. And I think that he's as good as the kid that went to go play over at Northwestern, by the way. But he's averaging just a little over 15 points per game, 3 rebounds, about 2.5 assists a game. He's shooting 48% on the season. I think the kid's phenomenal. I want you guys to go to the Nutter Center to watch this kid play. I hope he's here for another year. I hope he's here for the next 2-3 years. But we know how college basketball works. So I don't know how long he's going to be here. But this kid, you don't get freshman talent like this. You usually get a freshman that comes in looking like a freshman and then develops into something, usually at the right state level. That's not what this is. This kid came in and literally, so I found out like they won a state championship over in Indiana. And they played where the Pacers play, a sold-out arena over there. And, he just bowled out in front of a sold-out NBA arena. Pressure doesn't bother him. Pressure doesn't bother him. Kid's unbelievable. I'm really, singing his praises because I want people to get out to the Nutter Center to watch him play and to watch the team play. I'm a huge fan of Clint Sargent, the head coach. I think they're well coached. I think they have a lot of talent. But Michael Cooper, big fan of his. Solomon Callahan, another kid, a third-year player for Wright State. He had a 20-point performance. Dropped 6 of 9 from the floor, 5 of 7 from 3. He does a lot of things. The ball just looks different coming out of his hands. Plus, he's a lefty. Kid's unbelievable. So, Wright State tonight at the Nutter Center, 7 o'clock. If you want tickets, text Raiders to 937-518-1410. If you want tickets to tonight's home game, text Raiders to 937-518-1410, and I'll get you taken care of for tickets to see the Raiders tonight. Michael Cooper and company, go check them out. All right, I want to talk some Reds coming up. If you missed our conversation with Paul Keels, that's also coming up around the corner as well. I don't know. Nobody seems to have answers on Jeremiah Smith and Cornell Tate. I don't anticipate seeing them. I mean, what's more likely? Who's more likely to play this weekend? Joe Burrow for the Bengals or Jeremiah Smith and Cornell Tate for the Buckeyes? Oof, I don't know. I honestly don't know that answer. But we'll get into all that and more coming up. Justin Kinder Show, 1410 ESPN Radio.
When you think of the most exciting at Staples. Save on top tech and gaming gifts, shipping supplies and services to get your packages there safely. Even custom cards and wrapping paper. Staples, that was easy.
Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
The 10th annual Holiday Help Out Food Drive officially kicks off tomorrow. Firehouse 72 in Trotwood. Again, this is the 10th year of this, and Wing really started being a part of it. So Faith Daniels, radio personality, runs 92.1 WROU, sister station here in town. And she started this Holiday Help Out Food Drive years and years ago, adopted local families in need around the holidays that, just aren't in a position to be able to, comfortably say that, hey, we're going to have a Thanksgiving Day meal. So many of us just, hey, we're having Thanksgiving next week. That's not the case for a lot of families. And a lot of families here in our backyard. So Faith started this project, and she's, set up shop at Firehouse 72 in Trotwood, and every year has been doing this food drive, and it's gotten bigger and bigger. And we've been a part of it the last couple of years. 92.1 WROU carries the Steve Harvey morning show, and Steve Harvey found out about this, and I think it's really cool because he provides about 50 families are adopted in the Miami Valley through this program, and Steve Harvey donates 50 Thanksgiving Day turkeys. And then we use the food drive. We take those turkeys and we just urge everyone to bring Thanksgiving Day meal items to the firehouse, because then we take those turkeys and then we build full Thanksgiving Day meals around those turkeys. And then we go, some of those families come and pick them up. Others involved in the food drive go and drop those off and deliver those to those families. And it's just, it's a real difference maker, because it's one thing to help anybody in need, but when you know that it's going to like people right here in Dayton, like when you know where it's going, I think it just means more. And this means a lot. And not only that, but because of the local, not the local, but the government shutdown that happened recently. And I know it's back open, but for the time it was the longest government shutdown in history. So because of that, there were a lot of food pantries that were just ransacked throughout that entire stretch, because a lot of families needed that. Well, now this is the most busy time of year for those food pantries. And now a lot of those food pantries are bare or very minimal resources. So what we're also doing is just any non-perishable food items, because we've mainly partnered with the Good Neighbor House, but all excess food, once we've taken care of them and those adopted families, we are going to go and make sure that we help restock as many of our local food pantries as possible. So we need your help. I appreciate anybody that could take the time. We're going to be out there all day tomorrow. I'll be doing the show out there tomorrow, all day Saturday, and through noon on Sunday. All right. So if you can make any time at all to come out and to drive through, again, they'll have the bay open. There'll be signs and everyone pointed, you'll follow the traffic through. You come through, you don't even have to get out of your vehicle. All right. All the volunteers, the firefighters there, they'll approach your car. You just tell them if it's in the trunk or in the back. And if you want to meet any of the radio station personalities, you're more than welcome to park and come on in and bring your stuff in. We'll be happy to meet you as well. But I just wanted to make sure I spent some time to give you guys some background information on that, because like I said, it's not just one of those, go be involved in some little charity thing. Like, we see the impact of this, and I look forward to it every year. So that's what's coming up tomorrow, the Holiday Help Out Food Drive at Firehouse 72 over in Trotwood. Nonetheless, Chad, you said what time on Saturday? We're there all day Saturday. So I have to do our Buckeye tailgate show from 10:30 to noon in Kettering, but then we're heading right to Trotwood as soon as that's done. So I'd say from 1 until end of day. Until the work is done on Saturday. So just keep that in mind. If you have time to stop on out, it'd be greatly appreciated. The Firehouse 72 over in Trotwood, the Holiday Help Out Food Drive. We look forward to seeing you guys there. All right. So Ohio State, they are in action on Saturday. It's a noon kickoff. Rutgers in town. It's the final home game for Ohio State. And I thought this was interesting. I talked about this with Byers. He was talking about Senior Day and just the senior recognition. And he said when he played at Ohio State that they didn't have Senior Day. They didn't do senior recognition then. He said there was senior recognition within the program, like your families came and they did like a little thing for you, like on the Friday before the game. You got recognized, you got honored in some way, but there was no bring you out onto the field before the game and that type of thing. And I find these to be awkward. If you guys remember last year, because like some of these players just don't know. Really in basketball, you really pay attention to, like, when it comes time for senior recognition. There's a lot of players who are seniors but have an extra year of eligibility. or they don't have an extra, or, they're not a senior, but it's their last year there. It's like you want to be able to honor them. Like think about like Deron Holmes, like didn't spend his entire career here, but it's like, man, on senior night or whatever, you want to be able to recognize those who made great contributions to your program. And he's an exception because he's going to the NBA. I find the senior recognition ceremonies just to be awkward nowadays. A lot was made last year for UD because Malachi Smith, participated there, but it's like, hold on, he has an extra year of eligibility. Why would they be honoring him then? He was basically letting everybody know he wasn't coming back at that point. So it was just strange and to me, and it's like, I don't know. I would scrap it. I think that they're awkward. I don't think they mean as much with the transfer portal. It's not like you're graduating. I think it meant more 10 years ago. I'd say even 5 years ago when it was normal, when you had players that would come in as freshmen. Some would play right away. Some would be redshirted. Some wouldn't play right away. But they would be a part of the program throughout the entire run. I just as a fan base, you feel connected to those. You feel like you're a part of their journey, and you love to be able to kind of pass on that love from a fan base and recognize the player on a senior day recognition. You get your name announced. You have your loved ones and family members, significant others around you. You're out there. The crowd gets a chance to give you, a one-on-one applause. But that's not what this is anymore. I mean, heck, you could have 4 seniors, but maybe one of them is a senior that was with you the whole time, and the others came through the portal. I don't know. I'm not I find it kind of awkward and silly. Football might be a little different. I think you still get more 4-year football players than you do basketball. But in basketball, I find them awkward anymore. I wouldn't do them. I would just scrap them. But nonetheless, not a big deal. But I can't believe it's already the final home game on Saturday for Ohio State. Nonetheless. And it will be the final home game because Ohio State in the position that they're in, they will not be hosting a first-round playoff game unless I'm misunderstanding the rules this year. I know that it was changed, but last year they didn't get that first-round bye. They're going to get a first-round bye. They're going to beat Rutgers. They're going to finally get a win over that team up north so they can put that losing streak behind them. I feel like there's only one thing left to do for Ohio State, and it's not win a national championship, although, yes, it would be cool to see them not just win the one last year, but to win back-to-back. But I really feel like Ryan Day just has one more mountain to climb, and that's Michigan. And you got to get to Michigan. You got to get through Rutgers first, and I'm not worried about Rutgers. I mean, you guys, I went on the rant yesterday. I don't think the Big Ten is very good. I think the Big Ten is horrible. I think Rutgers is an embarrassment to the program, to the conference. I mean, but that's why I'm already talking about Michigan, because there's nothing about the only thing about this Rutgers game that intrigues me is if there is no Jeremiah Smith and no Carnell Tate, just how good can Julian Sand look? And I really feel like if Julian Sand goes out there, yes, even against a bad Rutgers team, if he can go out there and put up numbers without his top 2 receivers, who aren't just top 2 wide receivers, they're 2 number 1 wide receivers. If he can't, if he could put up numbers without them, I think he more than deserves to be in that Heisman conversation. I think he deserves to be in it now. I just see a lot of people trying to use the fact that he plays with 2 great receivers against him. Well, there's an opportunity for him to be able to put on a show, without those guys. So that's the only intrigue I have in this Rutgers game. But as far as Michigan goes, like when Ohio State beats Michigan a week from Saturday, and I do believe it's going to happen, I'm not really worried about this Michigan team. I think that this, you could say, well, remember what happened last year? Ohio State was close to like a 20-point favorite. I get that. But I feel like the vibe, there's no desperation with this program anymore in Ohio State. I felt like Ohio State was getting borderline desperate to get a major win. And I felt like once they got that Tennessee win, they were kind of playing with house money. Everyone was like, hey, if we lose, we're supposed to, I don't want to say supposed to lose, but had they lost to Tennessee or had they lost to Oregon in the Rose Bowl, it would have been one of those, yeah, well, obviously we weren't very good. We lost to Oregon. We lost to Michigan. We were lucky to get this far. But when they steamrolled Tennessee and then just punched Oregon in the mouth right off the bat, it was like, oh, they shook off all the bad vibes from the Oregon loss and the Michigan loss in the regular season. Still felt the pressure throughout. Ohio State could have lost to Texas. They could have lost to Notre Dame in the national title. Still would have been fine. Still would not have truly been expected to win it. But they did win it. And it shook off every narrative that had surrounded the black cloud that surrounded that program. The inability to be able to win big games. because that went back not just that season, but all the way back to a little bit before 2020. The last big win they had is when they beat Clemson in the playoff in that 2020 playoff. But after they beat Clemson, and I believe that was the Trevor Lawrence year. So after they beat Clemson and Trevor Lawrence in that semifinal, that was the last shining moment for Ohio State for the next 5 years, because after that, it was a very bad half-decade stretch, if you think about it. Ryan Day survived a very tough stretch. They lost to Oregon multiple times in that stretch. They, after beating Clemson a week or 2 weeks later, they got their doors beat off by Alabama in the national championship. Since that point, they had lost to Michigan 4 times. Since that point, they had lost to Missouri in a bowl game. Like they had a Rose Bowl win against Utah, and that was it. The shining moment for Ohio State from 2020's win over Clemson until last year's win over Tennessee in the playoff, the shining moment for them, the biggest win for them, was a win over Utah in the Rose Bowl. And the Rose Bowl was almost just a signal of you weren't good enough to make the playoffs, so even a win over Utah wasn't anything to truly brag about. But multiple losses to the SEC, 4 straight losses to that team up north, multiple losses to Oregon. There really wasn't anything. No, I mean, they struggled to win Big Ten championships. There was really nothing there to truly feel good about. So the fact that Ohio State erased all of that within a 1-month run of beating Tennessee, beating Oregon, beating Texas, beating Notre Dame, the fact that they were able to and then beat Texas again to kick off this season, 5 straight wins over top 10 opponents. Man, I remember we had Heather Dinich on the show at the beginning of the year and others. I could not think of a more impressive start or a more impressive 5-game stretch from any team in the history of college football. I don't think any team has ever played that gauntlet of a schedule when you truly think about it. And if you really would have stretched it into last season, you got to think that, we're playing the second to last game of the season right now with Rutgers. Last year at this time, it was top 5 Indiana. So Ohio State, a year ago at this time, had top 5 Indiana, Michigan, Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame, Texas again. So it was actually a 6-game stretch. It was the most impressive 6-game, 7-game stretch that I could think of in college football history. I don't think any team has played a tougher stretch of football programs as that. There was no buffer games in between. There was no gimme games. There was no, you know what I mean? Like that. So for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes to shed all of those narratives, to not just play that gauntlet of a schedule, but to come out, I shouldn't say unscathed because they did lose to Michigan, but nobody looks at Ryan Day and Ohio State anymore and thinks that they can't win a big game, because that's all they do anymore is win big games, win big game after big game after big game. But there's one more game. There's one more narrative. There's one more black cloud that is hovering above this program right now. And it's not a little black cloud. It is the black cloud. It is the black cloud that is the inability to beat Michigan. Ryan Day has 1 win over Michigan in his time at Ohio State. Would have been 2 if Michigan didn't chicken out, years ago and during the COVID season. But it doesn't matter because 1 win, 2 wins, there's 4 losses. And that has to be fixed. That has to be fixed. And I believe it's going to be fixed. And once it is fixed, and once Ryan Day and Ohio State beat Michigan a week from Saturday, there's really no negative storyline. There is no negative black cloud that hovers over this team. It's kind of crazy how quickly Ryan Day has just turned around and shifted the narrative and shook it all off. And in my opinion, I think is the best head coach and will be viewed as that. If they beat Michigan a week from Saturday, and I believe that they will, it's going to be hard for anyone to convince me that Ryan Day is not the best coach in college football right now, because he struggled and struggled and struggled, and all of a sudden something clicked. They went on that dominant run in the playoff to win a national championship. They're undefeated. They're the number 1 team in the country right now. They have 2 Heisman contenders, a revamped defense. And I just think it's the healthiest program in college football. From 2000 to now, in 25 years, no team has won more games than Ohio State. They have 3 national championships in 25 years. 3 national championships with 3 different head coaches. They won a national championship, obviously, with Tressel, a national championship with Urban Meyer, and a national championship with Ryan Day. So as a program, all right, this is the healthiest program in all of college sports. No other program is doing or has done what Ohio State has done. They have won more games in the last 25 years than any other team. 3 national championships with 3 different head coaches. The only other team that could say that it has done that is technically LSU. With Wes Miles, they Ed Orgeron, Nick Saban, not in that order, of course. But you had West, you had Nick Saban, and then obviously Ed Orgeron. But like 3 different head coaches have won a national championship with LSU. 3 different coaches have won it with, of course, Ohio State. But Ohio State's won more games than any other team in college football since the year 2000. They don't have a down year. Their down year was the transition year from Tressel, when Fickell was the interim coach for the 1 year before Urban Meyer got there. But even the down years for Ohio State were Rose Bowl years. The down year for Ohio State, they still won double-digit games. Ohio State doesn't have down years. Alabama has down years. Michigan has down years. LSU has down years. Clemson's had down years. Georgia has down years. Ohio State's the only program that doesn't have down years. Yes, you can count the 1 year. It was a down year when they had Fickell, when they were navigating through the coaching change. But, I mean, dang, once they got Urban Meyer, they went undefeated. They won a national championship later. They dominated in recruiting. They still dominate in recruiting. I'm not a Buckeye homer. I'm a realist. There is not a healthier, program in all of college athletics than Ohio State football. And that was even the case while they were still navigating through the struggles of not winning Big Ten championships or getting to the playoff for a few years. They were still a double-digit win team. So the fact that they've shifted, that they've navigated through that, they have a chance to shake off the only bad narrative that surrounds them and that they can't beat their rival. They beat their rival a week from Saturday. They're the defending national champions. They're the current number 1 team in the country. They're undefeated, about to win another Big Ten championship. I mean, my goodness, I don't know what else you can ask for from Ryan Day in this Buckeye program. They're the best, healthiest program in all of college sports. If you missed our conversation with Paul Keels, the legendary voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes, we have that coming up for you here around the corner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers.